Welcome to T
and E with a T.
I'm your host, Teresa.
I'm your co-host, Edwin.
And today we're talking about part 2 of Diddy's case. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. This episode contains discussion of sensitive topics that may be distressing for some audiences. Please take care while listening, and if these topics are triggering for you, we encourage you to prioritize your well-being. So, have you ever heard of The Simpsons? You have? Okay, so what do you know about them?
It's like a cartoon. I think it's Adult Swim, right?
Huh?
Is it Adult Swim?
Swim?
Oh, Adult Swim, yeah.
I think maybe. I'm
yeah,
not sure.
and they just like tell the future. I've noticed like that a lot of the things that they project kind of comes true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of things that they predicted, like there's a few things that are true or that come true. But yeah, there's a lot of things that they predicted, right? Well, this is not really a prediction, but in this episode of The Simpsons, there's this episode called, I think, The Great Fatsby. So it's kind of like The Great Gatsby, but it's The Great Fatsby. And it's kind of a resemblance of Diddy's parties. So in the episode, in the very beginning, you just see everybody in white. You see everybody like dancing, having a good time, drinking, whatever, right? And everybody's asking for like the host. Who's the host? Where's the host? And well, specifically, the main characters of The Simpsons are asking for the host. And everybody's like, oh no, he's not here, all this stuff, right? Then he ends up showing up, and the guy kind of looks like Diddy, the host.
Yeah.
I have a picture. So this is how the party looks like, right? And then this is how the host looks like. So everybody's saying like it resembles Diddy, and it also resembles his parties.
Yeah.
So the reason why I guess that's kind of not important, but in a way it kind of stands out is because it basically showed or kind of made people understand or see how Diddy's parties was like the best thing of the year. Like if you were invited to this party of Diddy's, you were literally like, you had to be really famous, or you had to be really liked by Diddy, or you had to be chosen by Diddy. Like you had some sort of
importance.
Yeah, importance to Diddy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so,
or in the industry or something. Yeah, I guess that's the Diddy too, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in this episode, it kind of shows that too. If you are going to these parties, or if you're invited, like you're like big, you're important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something that I wanted to bring up because I really thought that that was really cool how The Simpsons even knew, or everybody knows about Diddy's parties, but nobody really knows what goes on, at least back then, what goes on in the parties if you're not going to these parties. Does that make sense? So whoever is in these parties, they kind of see a different side of Diddy's parties and what actually goes on throughout that whole entire time. So during these parties, there was a lot of allegations, or a lot of speculations of, from the outside at least, that there was a lot of allegedly drug use, a lot of orgies, and a lot of other stuff, right? And we're going to get into that topic, and we're going to get into the parties and what really goes down to these parties and the freak offs, basically, because they are added into these parties. Now, Diddy's parties, I'm going to talk a little bit about them. Supposedly, it started in 1998, and there was a party at Diddy's home in East Hampton, New York on Labor Day. And that was like one of the biggest parties. Everybody was talking about it, and supposedly that's where it started, right? Paris Hilton was invited, and Paris Hilton is an icon. So I don't know if you know who she is, but she's really big and she's very known, and she was even at the party.
What does she do?
So she's like a model, or like she does other things, but I'm not 100% sure what's her actual job title, but she is very known and she's really popular and she's very famous. But she was at the party. Thousands of people were on the guest list. Everybody was there, and the dress code was white. So that kind of shows the look of the parties, right? And it kind of like it looks like the episode of The Simpsons. Everybody's wearing white. There's the big people there. Everybody's like having a good time. Blah blah blah, right? So at these parties, um they were only like a selected people that were invited to these parties. So if you were not invited, it's because you're either not important in the industry or you're not famous, right? Or you weren't picked or chosen by Diddy, because sometimes Diddy would choose people to go and get into the parties. I'm going to give you a little bit of example of who was there. So the famous people were like Eminem, Lil Wayne, Jennifer
Savage.
Lopez, yeah, Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
So it's all these people. And those are really famous people. So those are the ones that were on these guest lists. Now, the reason why I bring this up also is because there was a lot of like allegations against Diddy and the things that would happen at this party. Um, Basically insinuating that there was more than just partying and drinking, because that's like a normal party. There was more than just that. And allegedly, these celebrities could have been involved in these allegations. In part two, I'm going to talk about what happened at the parties and the lawsuits and the freak offs. And also, we're going to talk about Cassie's lawsuit. We're going to go in depth. But in part one, we did kind of talk about the freak offs a little bit. We talked about Cassie and Diddy and Kim Porter and Diddy as well, and what went down with them, their relationships. So we're gonna get into it. So there was something that I've noticed that at the parties, or at least from what I was researching, what they did, or what was more like of the focus at the parties was women. So women was like seen as like this God-given thing, right? At these parties. Some women were hired to walk around with like angel wings. They were sometimes topless. They were basically shown as like this, like like a god in a way. And there were also VIP sections. So in these VIP sections, these people were chosen by Diddy to be in these sections, in the VIP section. Then there were also a celebrity section, and this section was only for celebrities. And then everywhere else, it's just the random people.
General admissions, kind of.
Yeah, basically. But Diddy jumped around from section to section because he's like, I'm like, that's how I want to run my parties. I'm not just gonna stick in the VIP section. I have to, attend to everybody. That's how you make a party like blow up. That's how you make everybody comfortable. And so that was the gist of the parties. Now, there was somebody that he was talking about Diddy's parties that I saw in an interview, and they said Diddy threw a party on a jet one time, and it was on a Tuesday, but somehow it ended up on the previous Sunday. So the reason why they say that, or why he said that, was because that's how his parties were seen. They were seen as this crazy thing. Like, it's like if it's a time lapse. It's like if you were just like, you wake up and it's another day.
Like time wasn't of the essence.
Yeah. So it's just, that just shows how crazy his parties were and how fun his parties were, because everybody wanted to go. And he knew how to throw a party. So besides like the whole pretty stuff like about the party, there was a lot of things that were coming out from the outside point of view. We see this party, we see everybody having fun. We're like, oh my God, like I wish I could go to one of these parties, But from the inside point of view, it's not so much that. Some people are like, yeah, I'm having fun. Some don't really experience this side of the parties. But the ones that do experience, the parties, Diddy. Um, with Diddy, it's more so of like kind of a scary experience. It's a moment where you don't remember what's actually going on and you don't remember what happened. You wake up the next day and you're either shirtless, your pants are gone, you you don't remember what happened and how you got into this bed, or you don't remember how you went or how you ended up in the hospital. You don't remember any of that. So
And
there
that was
are
the
a few,
majority of the people in the parties?
not majority. There were some people that didn't experience that,
Yeah.
but there's some people that did. And I mean, it's obviously alleged, but there's a lot of lawsuits that are going against Diddy and what happened at these parties. So there's one thing that I do want to mention as well is that there were allegedly underage people as well in these parties. So imagine, waking up in the middle of nowhere and not remembering what happened last night, but you think, oh, I only took like one drink. So how did I end up in this place and I don't remember what happened? I wasn't drunk. But like I said, these underage people were there allegedly, and for them to experience these type of things, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of sad. So there's one person that did talk about allegedly, he was underaged. He was 16 years old, and he was there because he got invited by Diddy.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was perfectly fine. Everything, he was having fun. And Diddy, he ended up bumping into Diddy. He ended up talking to him. He's like, oh, like, I really want to, like, be in the industry. I want to grow and all this stuff, right? And Diddy was like, okay, yeah, like, that would be nice. That's good. And he later on, like, took him to a room. And in that room, he instructed him to drop his pants and expose his penis so that Diddy could examine it. Now, the reason why he said
A 16
allegedly,
year old?
a 16-year-old, allegedly, it was a boy. So, allegedly, he was telling him to do that so that he can prove himself to how to get into the business. Because that was the only way that he was able to prove himself. If he were to put his pants down and allow Diddy to examine him. So, allegedly, he grabbed his genitals and felt him, yeah, all over. So that's one lawsuit that we hear about that shows allegedly there were underage people there, that went through something more horrific than what the party or what everybody else was seeing and what Diddy was kind of showing to everybody in the world. There was not just drinks, there were not just good times at these parties. There were alleged drugs, non consensual sexual encounters, physical violence, and some were even filmed allegedly for personal use, and even baby oil was involved.
Baby
Now,
oil.
yes, so I did mention baby oil in the first part of, this series, but in part one, but in for the baby oil, basically allegedly, well, not really alleged because I
Never
am gonna,
proven.
yeah,
Like they actually found it.
yeah, so I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. So Diddy ends up getting arrested, right? And in his arrest, or when he was arrested, they ended up searching his house, his home, and they found thousands of baby oil. Now, we don't know 100%, or at least we have some idea of how or what he was using the baby oil, but this baby oil was something that he would carry around everywhere. Like when he would have his freak offs at the hotels, there was baby oil. Because when he was arrested from he was taken from a hotel, and in that hotel room there was baby oil, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff obviously, but there was baby oil in that hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about his arrest and what happened and how did they find him and his apology for Cassie, but we're going to talk about that in part 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to kind of, want you to understand why baby oil was involved. But baby oil was a thing. You know how there's that lawsuit of that kid, right? that went through that
16-year-old.
experience. Yes, that went through that experience with Diddy. There is more than 70 lawsuits that are filed against Diddy because of what happened to them at Diddy's parties. So they, in the very beginning, there was about over 100 lawsuits, but now they were able to rule out some of them, and we're still not 100% sure that these lawsuits, or if these lawsuits are real, or if they're like, telling the truth. But for it to be that many people coming out and saying something, there's no way that this didn't happen. But obviously, it's all alleged. So there was this other person that her name was LaTroya Grayson. Allegedly, she attended one of Diddy's parties, and this one was called a black party. Everybody was going to wear black initially. On October 16th, 2006, and she woke up in the hospital the next morning with no memory of the previous night, stating that she drank less than 2 drinks that was passed around by the servers. LaTroya, she's at this party, right? She was supposedly invited by Diddy because she won a contest on a radio station. And it was a road trip to attend to one of Diddy's parties. So she ends up going, but you're able to invite a guest. So she brought her sister. Now, when she goes to the party, her sister's not allowed to go in, but she is. LaTroya is. So LaTroya goes in by herself, and her sister ends up staying outside of the house, the party. And it's kind of the reason why people speculate that the reason why they let LaTroya in instead of her sister was because she was kind of the ideal of Diddy, like for Diddy. Does that make sense?
She
So,
was at Diddy's time.
yes. So, allegedly, that's the reason why they allowed her in. That's what people speculate, right? And so she goes in, she's, mingling, she's having a good time. Then supposedly, she gets past one drink, she drinks it, she's fine. The next drink, she drinks it and she doesn't even finish it. She feels sick. She feels sick. She goes to the restroom, but after that, she doesn't remember what happened. And then she wakes up the next morning in the hospital with a ripped shirt and no underwear or shoes. So nobody knows, or she doesn't know, what happened to her the night before, but she thinks that she was allegedly sexually assaulted. Because why else wouldn't she have underwear, and why else her shirt would be ripped?
No, yeah, I think that's yeah.
So that was one lawsuit that came out by LaTroya Grayson. That shows a little bit more of what went down at these parties.
No, yeah, that's definitely like sexual assault.
Yeah.
Cause there's no way yeah, your underwear was taken off.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like LaTroya was like, I know I only drank less than 2 drinks. She's like, because I remember that part. I drank one drink, everything was fine. Then I drank the other, and halfway, I'm already feeling woozy, like I'm feeling like drunk. But she's like, there's no way. I can't, that I cannot have 2 drinks and already feel like that. So that's another thing. It's like, what was in those drinks? So supposedly at these party drinks, allegedly, they were laced with some type of drug. And these drinks will get 1 or 2 can get you already drunk because of it, because it's laced with these drugs. Now, allegedly, if you were to drink these drinks that were laced, you will black out and you will wake up the next morning not knowing what happened. So, this happened, well, through the lawsuits, this happened a lot. This was mostly the stories that they drank a drink, then they felt sick, and then they woke up the next morning not knowing what happened, and they're like either not fully clothed, or they're in a place that they didn't know, or they don't know, or they don't remember anything, but they know that they didn't drink that much to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So
That happened to me once in Puerto Rico.
That's
I
scary.
drank like a little bit, and then I was like, I feel it. I feel it already, and it was just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I got scared, and I started telling everybody, and they didn't believe me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I was like, I'm gonna water this shit down and drink it. So I watered it down with Sprite
Mm-hmm.
and drank it, and we all drank it. Like we all passed it around. I know that was probably
Yeah.
dumb, but I was young.
Yeah,
That was
all
probably like
past the
five
drink that
years
was
ago.
supposedly laced.
Yeah, and we just all drank it.
And everybody else was fine, or everybody was feeling
We
it
were
too?
all fine. Yeah, I think I don't remember, but I remember that day. It was wild. I was a little scared. Yeah.
Mm-mm. That's scary. I'm too scared of that. There was this one time where this guy, I felt like he was trying to like drug me because I went to PBR in Atlanta and at the Battery, and I was there with my friend, and I go to the bar and this guy is like, "Oh, let me buy you a drink," and I was like, "Okay, fine." So he goes and he's like, "Order it," and I'm like, "Okay." So I order it, and she makes a drink and everything, and I'm like talking to my friend and all this stuff because she's next to me, and the guy's to my right, and then the lady comes and she gives me my drink, and she was like, "It's gonna be so and so," like she's telling me the amount, and I'm like, I was like, I thought he was gonna buy it, and then she was like, "Oh no, he's not buying the drink," and I was like, "Okay," and he's still standing next to me, and he's looking at her and he's looking at me like if I'm stupid. I'm like, I know you told me that you were gonna. I'm like, it's whatever. Like, I'll buy my drink, but still, that was weird. So I buy my drink, and and then I grab my drink and I take it, and then I turn around to look to my friend, and then I turn back around, and he turns around with the drink in his hand, and I was like, what the heck? And it's a shot, and I'm telling him, I'm like, no, no, no. I was like, I already have my drink. Thank you so much, and I just walk away, and he's staring at me. He's the whole entire time he's just staring at me. And I'm like, oh no, Felissa, because that was the friend that I was with. I was like, oh no, Felissa, we gotta go. I'm scared. This man's gonna abduct me or something, or he's gonna, I don't know what he's gonna do, but he's staring at me way too hard, and that is scary. And why did he try to hand me a drink? Right? I don't know if it was a shot or a regular drink, but I was like, something was in that drink, and he was trying to drug me. He was gonna take me there. I was like, we gotta go.
No,
So
that's scary.
it was really scary. So it's scary to have like those moments and to be, I guess,
Yeah, I can see what she
quote
went
unquote
through. Oh, yeah,
drugged, yeah,
yeah,
and the next day you don't remember anything.
yeah. That's scary.
There's allegations of drugs in the drinks, right? And supposedly there was sections of cups for women, and then these cups allegedly were laced. Most of the drinks
Yeah.
for women that were laced.
Mm-hmm.
The way they separated this was that they would have more champagne glass and lemon drops. So those were the two, allegedly the two drinks that were laced, because those drinks were mostly drawn towards, women were drawn towards two,
Yeah.
more towards two. So usually men don't really go for those drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another section for celebrities. Now these drinks were allegedly not drugged, not laced, so there was no drugs in there. There's lawsuits that state that you would have to sign an NDA before getting into the party. So you know what an NDA is, right?
Yeah. Non-disclosure or something like that.
Yeah. So
No
basically,
disclosure.
it's not 100% legit. We don't know 100% if this is true, but there's some lawsuits that do state this. That they state that they had to sign an NDA before they went into the party. Now, after you signed the NDA, allegedly you had to take a shot. Now, some were laced and some were not. Allegedly, depending on if you were a woman or if you were just liked by Diddy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like I said before, with Diddy, it's hard to say no. It's hard to say no. So, say at the end of the day, if they were conscious and they were to like be like, no, I don't want to, with Diddy, allegedly, you're not able to say no. And he will get what he wants. At least from what we've already talked about with Cassie, right? And so that the only thing, okay, so it wasn't just, not random people because they're still people, but like having these experiences. Celebrity men came out speaking out about the virgin hole, quote unquote, or the back entrance, quote unquote, if you can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would come out in interviews. Not a lot of people, I'm sorry. A few celebrity men will come out in interviews talking about this, kind of making fun of it. So there was one interview, or not interview, but there's one video of this guy. He comes out and he states his name is 50 Cent. So 50 Cent, he's very popular. He's a very popular rapper.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out in, one of his concerts, and he was talking on his mic, and he was talking to people, and he was like,
"That's why I don't be going to the puffy parties. They can hug you from the front and the back at the same time. What the fuck you talking about? I mean, look, if you into that, I'm fine with it. To each his own. I'm just saying this shit my motherfucking kind of party.
So like I don't be doing that. So yeah, so he states that. And there's even another actor. He's a big actor. He's like he's very famous. I forgot his name, but he's a really funny, he's a comedian.
Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Dang. So there's like, so Diddy's like homosexual, right?
Yes, it seems like he is. It seems like he's bi. He's bisexual because of the fact that, he does have intimate relationships with women as well, but also with men. And but I mean, I don't know. He's never came out to say anything, so I can't really say that that's his title.
The tape.
But that's what that goes on. And then there's also like audios. There was an audio of him and Meek Mill, supposedly. It came out in the trial. But this audio
is trial.
We're gonna talk about this in part 4 a little bit more, but I did want to bring this up because it kind of adds to him and having intimate relationships with men as well. But yeah, he came out. This audio came out, and it's him and Meek Mill, and they're basically having sex. This other man, he talks about this audio, and he says, "Yeah, I heard it. I was there."
Oh.
Supposedly, I don't know if he's the one that recorded it, but supposedly he said that he put his phone up to the door and he recorded it. But he put his ear and he heard everything. And he was like, "I heard Meek Mill and Diddy doing it." He said, "I clapping balls and all this."
Oh, hey.
So he talks about all of this, right?
All the champagne was spiked, son. Like, all the champagne was spiked. Everybody was passed the fuck out. I don't drink, so I was playing that shit off like I don't fucking drink. I smoke, nigga. Like, I smoke and I had my own weed, but like everybody was passed out. Yo, Diddy had that man in the room. Look, yes, I put my ear to the fucking door and I brought the phone because Diddy started going in overdrive. I ain't know what the fuck was going on, but I just heard balls slapping against ass cheeks.
Then this was at a party, and it seems like, this was the thing. Like, everybody was just having sex everywhere. That was the thing everywhere. The whole time of the party, the whole entire time of the party, that was like a lead up to the after party, and the after party was the sexual acts that they would have with each other. Oh. Not thinking of that, all the celebrities that were on the guest list, who knows? Maybe they were involved. Maybe they, did a little some, but we don't know.
That's crazy.
Allegedly, right? So that's kind of the gist of Diddy's parties. We're going to get a little bit more in depth later on. So there is one interview with Conan O'Brien.
You're legendary for the parties that you throw. Mm-hmm. You throw a great party.
I'm a legend, baby, for a whole bunch of things.
Yes. Huh?
Yeah.
Conan goes, "What's the ingredient for a killer party?" And Diddy goes,
"Women. Beautiful women, of course.
Beautiful women.
Beautiful men for the ladies, of course.
It's kind of odd that he would state, like, oh yeah, beautiful women, but also beautiful men for the ladies.
And he had to say, of course.
Yeah, he does say of course. So he says, a killer party is beautiful women and beautiful men for ladies, of course. So I guess insinuating like, oh, it is for you ladies, like, you know.
Don't think it's for me.
Right. And so Conan says, wouldn't it be better if there's no beautiful men?
Wouldn't it be better if there weren't beautiful men there? There were just a lot of beautiful women and then just the guy?
No. You have to make. There's enough ladies to go around. You have to give the ladies what they need too. You know, you have to take care of your women.
Take care of the ladies. Okay,
Ladies, yeah.
gotcha. That's good.
Can't force the situation.
Right.
Basically insinuating like, you know, women want to have a good time too. So let's have men for women as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, he says, you need water for the ladies because they're going to leave if you don't have any water.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but
Yeah.
So that was a little bit odd. Why would you need locks on doors?
Did he explain?
Conan O'Brien kind of like, you know, kind of mentions this again. He's like, oh, like, why do you need locks on the doors or why do you need this? And he states, well, you need a lot of heat. You need to keep people in the room so that we can start sweating. And he's like, well, isn't that kind of nasty? And he's like, no, like, it's sexy. Like, it's sexy. It's this, like, feeling. Like, it just...
That's the baby oil resemblance, because when you sweat, you get all shiny. You know, it's sweaty. And with baby oil, you also get shiny. So I think he likes shininess. That's why he likes baby oil.
I don't know, but he does say that. He's like, you get sexy. It's that sexy feeling. And then he goes, then you need music. And then me, of course. So it kind of, the way he's talking about this kind of sounds like if it's an orgy. Does that make sense? Because you're wanting to keep everybody in one room. Everybody's going to be sweating. Everybody's going to be, you know, together, getting loose because they've been drinking. And then also you need music to set the mood. But then also you need him because he's the main of the party, right? So that's what it kind of sounded like to me. And it kind of sounded like he was snitching on himself. Because now if you look back at those videos, it makes sense to what he was arrested for. Or why he's in trial right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because back then, people would be like, oh, like, he's so funny, oh, ha, 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 like, whatever. Nobody actually questioned it. But now that all of this is going on, now everybody's like, oh, shoot. Like, he literally just said it right there. And we did not even pay attention. We just let it slide.
I think that's how, like, from the last episode, that's how he grew his power, because he was actually saying it out loud. And nobody was saying anything.
Yeah, I mean, most of his interviews, he basically said what he was doing. But nobody really paid attention. So, and some people will come out and they'd be like, you're crazy. Diddy? Like, why would he do that? Nah, he's a cool dude. Whatever. But he was literally telling himself on an interview. So another interview with Conan O'Brien, randomly Conan brings up this conversation. How he sends his assistants to go and prepare his hotel room.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but he brings this up in an interview.
Oh, he brings that up?
Yes. So he asks him about that. And he brings it up and he says, so you send someone else to check in for you and prepare the hotel room for you. And he says, yeah, it's called preparing the sexy.
Let me ask you something. I don't know if this is just made up myth or if this is true, but I'm told that when you go to a hotel, anytime you go to a hotel, you don't just check in the way everybody else does. You send someone ahead to prepare the hotel room for you.
It's called preparing the sexy.
You know how, we talked about this in the Freak-Offs. In the Freak-Offs, the scandal is that he tells his assistants to go prepare the room. Well, this is what he states this. He states this in the interview. Why he wants them to prepare the room and what he does or has them do to prepare the room.
And that's candles. I like candles. I like tuberose. That's a smell. I like that scent. I'm attracted to certain scents.
What kind of
tuberose?
We want to go through perfect measures or proper measures to make sure that the sexy is there when I arrive. Does that make sense? So he's basically insinuating that he wants everything to be prepared so that when he arrives, it can get all sexy and whatever he wants to do. So he is kind of talking about it like if he's just like that's what I like. That's what I like to. I just like to have a relaxed time. I like to have a bath. I like to have candles. I like to be smelling good. And then I want to get in there and feel like sexy. I want to feel good. I want to feel relaxed. That's how he's kind of insinuating it. But now what we know, that's not what he was talking about. Like I said, he was telling on himself this whole entire time. He basically was saying that he was preparing for his freak offs.
Dang.
What Cassie would put in her lawsuits was that there would be candles. He would want, a certain sense in the room. And that was, what she stated in her lawsuit. It just shows that he was just telling on himself this whole entire time and we're not paying attention. So on Entertainment Tonight, Diddy talks about his parties. So this is another interview, right? He talks about his parties and he says they don't want to give him the permit to have his parties anymore.
They won't even give me a permit for the parties, man. They don't want me to throw the parties no more. But we ain't gonna stop. We gonna keep on having fun, bringing people together from all walks of life. You're gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we wanna have a good time.
Now, this interview kind of shows that he knows that he's doing some crazy stuff at his parties and allegedly he could get arrested, right? And it shows what type of parties he's having. Now, this video does not really do well now because now we already know what was going through these parties. And back then, we didn't know, at least not from the outside point of view. And now the outside point of view, we know 100%. Not 100%, I'm sorry, but allegedly what was going through these parties. So we kind of talked a little bit about the what went down and the lawsuits and everything, but now we're going to get into more deeper. On April 2015, this man, he filed this lawsuit against Diddy. He was attending one of the parties at Diddy's parties. This lawsuit doesn't show it shows like, the situations that were happening in the parties, but it also shows how mean Diddy could be. So he humiliated, raped, and sexually assaulted this man, allegedly. So this was April 2015. A man named Joseph Manzaro claims Diddy sexually exploited him in a Miami birthday party. Allegedly asked for him to undress and placed him inside of a shower, reportedly required to wear a black leather mask with a rubber dam forcibly inserted. Now,
Wait, what?
so
Forcefully what?
inserted. So he had a black leather mask on. In this black leather mask, there was a hole. In that hole, he put a dildo in his mouth, forcibly inserting it in his mouth.
That's a lawsuit?
That's lawsuit. That's what he claims that what happened to him, right? So he was forced to perform non-consensual acts on Diddy while, all of this was happening. And he was also forced to walk around the party with that mask on and the rubber piece in his mouth. Now, allegedly,
What the hell?
Jay-Z, Beyonce, LeBron James, and Gloria Estefan saw him in this state. Now, allegedly, there was people like he heard Beyonce or heard somebody say, "What's going on? Why is this man? Why is he walking around like this?" And Diddy would be like, "Oh, like." So he would learn a lesson on what happened if people snitch. Now, we don't know if he snitched, what happened. I'm not sure. All we know is this lawsuit. and what he states happened at that party. So that's another example, right? There's a few more lawsuits. The first one, his name was Ian. Allegedly, Combs violently forced him to masturbate in front of him at a New York apartment around 2003. And
Combs? Who's Combs?
Combs
Diddy?
is Diddy. That's his last name. And he was only 19 years old. And another lawsuit, a New York woman who worked as a bottle service attendant during multiple alleged incidents with Combs, she allegedly stated that Combs drugged her and raped her at his direction at a white party in 1997 while he watched. And another second incident in late 1990s, she claimed after running into Combs at a Limelight nightclub party, she and her friend were taken against their will to a penthouse suite at the Trump Hotel, where they were drugged and forced into a group sex.
That was the second incident?
That was the second incident.
Dang.
So allegedly, that's what she claimed.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Diddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another lawsuit states an 18-year-old woman who attended a 2007 Hamptons white party. The woman said that her, in the February 2025 lawsuit, in her lawsuit, that she attended with a friend who left her for 15 minutes. When the friend came looking for her, she allegedly was naked and surrounded by men.
Wow.
The friend was able to help her escape. So that was another lawsuit, right? And she was only 18 years old. Another lawsuit states a Michigan man, in his lawsuit that he filed in February 2025, this man states that he was only 14 years old. He ran into Combs, whom he knew through his father, at a New York hotel in 2006, and was invited to a room party to play his music. He claimed that he was drugged and later woke up Combs raping him while a woman filmed.
Oh my gosh.
So that was another lawsuit, right? And he was only 14 years old.
What?
So now we're going to get into the lawsuit of Cassie. So
if they
now
get
that
all
we
those films, he's done for. But I bet you they deleted them already.
Either way, if they delete them, you can still get them back. The what's it called? Police officers or I don't know, whoever is involved, the FBI, they can take everything out. They can still get those videos if they delete them.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, I mean, you can kind of see, like, these lawsuits are coming out and they're filed against Diddy. So I think if it was just a couple, I think it wouldn't be true and people were just trying to come out to get money. But there's so many people. Like I said, there was more than 70 lawsuits that came out against Diddy. And allegedly, these things were happening at this party. So that's the gist of the parties and what goes down and the lawsuits that went against Diddy because of those parties. Since we already talked about the lawsuits, a few lawsuits about the parties, I am going to get into Cassie's lawsuit. Cassie's lawsuit kind of talks a little bit about the parties, then it talks about her relationship. So I'm gonna add on to part one about Cassie. But Cassie filed this lawsuit in November 16th, 2023, right? Cassie filed a lawsuit that was 35 pages long.
Is that a
Against
lot?
Diddy.
I don't know.
35 pages long it's a pretty good bit. So in this lawsuit, she accused Diddy physically, sexual abuse, and sex trafficking.
Well, technically, yeah, because she...
The freak offs.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole entire time that she was in a relationship. So that's what she claims that Diddy did to her through that time. So allegedly, Diddy raped her in 2018 after she tried to leave him. That is something that was brought up in the trial, and I have seen it, and she has talked about it. But we'll talk about that in part 4. But
wait, you could actually see the trial?
No, you can't see it. You can't see it. You can only watch videos of people talking about it, but they're not broadcasting this.
Okay.
So I watched this one girl named Stephanie Sue, and she talks about that. But she does go and talks about this moment, right? They're gonna ask her about the things that she put on her lawsuit. So yeah, so allegedly Diddy raped her in 2018 after she tried to leave him. Another one is that he forced her into humiliating sexual encounters with male sex workers while he filmed and masturbated. And another one, he subjected her to violent beatings, often leaving her with black eyes, burst lips, and bruises. Another one, he blew up a man's car after learning of Cassie's romantic interest in him. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So that she did that in her lawsuit. Another one was he forced her to carry his firearm to intimidate her. So you remember how I told you that he would have them carry his
He
firearm
did that to
in their
what's her
gun?
name?
I mean, in her purse.
What's
J
that?
Lo.
Yeah, I remember he did that to J Lo.
Yeah. So he would do that. He would do that to basically every girl that he was with, allegedly. He did that to Kim Porter. He did that to, I mean, now Cassie, and then J Lo. Cassie's lawsuit was filed just before the deadline of New York's Adult Survivors Act. So this act basically allowed victims to speak justice for past sexual abuse. So she literally did it on the right before the deadline
So there
of
was
the
only a
act.
time period where people could actually do that?
Yes, for some reason that act was released to where anybody could speak up right now. It could be like years, because there's a cut where you can't report it anymore because it's already been years.
When was this?
This
What year
the
from what year
the
do you
act
know? Yeah.
from May 2022 to November 24th, 2023. So it was only for 1 year. Basically, it was created for 1 year to look back is a look back window for survivors of sexual assault that occurred when they were over the age of 18 to sue their abusers regardless of when the abuse occurred.
Yeah, they just opened up that little time frame. I mean, I'm glad they did, but
File
I
that
didn't know you
lawsuit.
couldn't file a lawsuit.
You cannot, you can file a lawsuit. You can file a lawsuit, but it has to be within a few years. I think there's a certain amount of years where you can't file a lawsuit anymore.
It's kind of weird, but
Yeah,
okay.
they only open a year window to be able to
Yeah.
allow you to do that. So she was one of them, and the settlement was within 24 hours. The lawsuit was settled, but Diddy's attorney clarified that the decision was in no way an admission of wrongdoing. However, the lawsuit triggered a wave of allegations and federal investigation, leading to Diddy's criminal indictment in September 2024 on charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, transporting individual for prostitution. The domino effect, more lawsuits and federal charges, came out, and Cassie's lawsuit became a catalyst for over 120 additional lawsuits against Diddy. So remember how I told you there was over 100 lawsuits? That's when Cassie's lawsuit came out, everybody else ended up coming out with their own lawsuits. Like the people,
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
kind of talked about. So 120 additional lawsuits against Diddy, some involving minors as young as 9 years old.
9 years old.
Yes.
And this is towards a judge or jury?
This is towards who?
A judge or jury?
What do you mean?
Judge is to a judge.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the jury is to
Are you talking about the trial or
Yeah,
this?
the trial.
Oh, it's both. The jury is always present when they're in the trial. So
But
he's
I mean,
talking.
there's different cases. Like there's a case that it's just you and the state, and then one's with the jury.
No, it's towards the state, but still, the
I'm
judge.
not too sure about it though.
Yeah, so I mean, the way they're explaining it, Diddy is there. He's with his attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
The judge is present, obviously. There's his people that are allowed to be present. Diddy's people are allowed to be present, and then there's reporters that are also allowed to be present, and there's also the jury. Now, allegedly, well, not allegedly, but it just came out that he was kind of interacting more to the jury during the trial, and that the judge stated to his attorney that if he keeps interacting, because he's not allowed to interact with the jury, if he keeps interacting with the jury, he will be kicked out of the what is it called, the court, and he will no longer be allowed in there.
Diddy was doing that?
Yes, he was interacting with the jury, and you're not allowed to. So there was jury present, and there's also a judge. So, but it's against the state that he's going against, right? So yeah, so that's what's happening. She also, her friend, Cassie's friend, also alleged that Diddy threw a large kitchen knife at Cassie, which
What?
was
No.
narrowly dodged.
Nearly dodged?
Narrowly. So I guess you can, yeah. So she dodged it, but he still threw a kitchen knife at her.
Dang,
Yeah.
oh heck no.
So another one is the 2016 hotel surveillance video surfaced showing Diddy kicking, hitting, and dragging Cassie, which he allegedly paid $100,000 to keep hidden. He paid the people at the hotel to allegedly hide this video and paid $100,000 to do so. So that's another thing that she added in her lawsuit. Cassie's emotional testimony in Diddy's federal trial. So during Diddy's federal trial in May of 2025, Cassie took the stand and emotionally testified about her violent and traumatizing relationship with him. She detailed that his freak-off sex parties were where he forced her into degrading sexual encounters. Years of physical and psychological abuse, including threats and blackmail using sex tapes. So basically, as of June 2025, Diddy remains in custody, and if he's convicted, he will face life in prison. So, meanwhile, meanwhile, Cassie is, she's living her life. She just welcomed her third child. And she's, with her husband, Alex, fine.
Let's go for her.
Yeah, so she has moved forward and she's doing a lot better without Diddy. But allegedly those are the allegations against him and the things that he is being convicted of. And we'll see, how it goes. Right now, this trial is still going on. Like I said, we'll talk about the trial in part 4. This is part 2. We talked about the freak offs. We talked about the parties. We talked about Cassie's lawsuit. Now, in part 3, we're going to talk about the alleged deaths that are connected to Diddy. This involves Tupac. This involves Biggie. And could possibly be a few other people.
Wow.
So this is all alleged. Obviously, don't come after me. I'm just going from what I know, or at least from what I've researched.
Yeah.
And we're not 100% sure if all of this is true, but there's been people that have came out in interviews of a man. His name is Gene Deal. His name is Gene Deal. I'm sorry, and he comes out and he states most of this because Gene Deal was was Diddy's bodyguard for a very long time.
The FBI guy.
For a very long time, and so he was involved in all of this, and he saw some of it, and he would at times stick up for the people, and at times he wouldn't see it, so he wasn't able to. But like I said, we'll talk about that in part 3. And in part 4, we'll talk about the trial and where we're at right now and how's it going. And hopefully we'll get to a point where we'll know when he's sentenced, or if he's going to be sentenced for life in prison. I really hope so. Because to be honest, we don't need people like that in our world.
Yeah. especially that have that much power. I think they could get away with it.
Yeah.
To allegedly kill people, allegedly do like these kind of, what is it called, playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
What is it
Freak
called?
offs.
Freak offs. Yeah, no, you can't be doing that stuff.
Yeah.
You can't just live in this world and get away with doing these things.
Yeah.
You cannot. Like that's harming people.
Yeah.
You're literally killing and taking someone's life, and then you're scarring somebody else with these assaults.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah, you can't. I think, yeah, if he's doing these things, which it seems like he is, but yeah, he should face life in prison.
Yeah. To be honest, I really hope so. Because yeah, I mean, you said it all. He doesn't need to be doing that, especially the power that he has.
Yeah.
There's no question to ask.
Mhm.
Like, if all the lawsuits are true, then he don't need to be here. He needs to be in prison.
Yeah.
But that is part 2 of the Diddy's case. I hope you guys enjoyed this video.
Leave a like, comment, subscribe in the comment section. Let us know what you guys think about it. If you guys know something that we don't know, or if we should talk about something in part 3 in regards to people's deaths, allegedly.
And stay tuned for the next video. Bye.